Hello, everyone, and welcome to VR Verdict, episode 85, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I am PJ.
And I am Wookie. I'm back.
I would like to share VR with you. He's back. It's been such a crazy week, and time's so weird as it is. I can't even remember the last time you were on or not on, to be honest. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but
it feels weird because power went out once and I was sick once and this had a headache. And yeah, it both feels like I haven't missed one and it feels like I've missed 10 at the same time. And I don't know how to process that weird feeling.
Yeah, and I went a little nuts in VR this week. So, and I'm only saying this so anyone listening can go check these things out. But I was a guest on the Let's Talk Oculus podcast. Check out when you're listening to this, that one should probably be out too, both audio or video. You can see my lovely face. And then we had our roundtable discussion last night in VR with a bunch of devs talking about VR and all kinds of things.
Which that's I think that's a start of something new and special. They seem to be having fun. We're having fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
We encourage anyone, whether you're a dev or a gamer, it's all just about talking about what works, what doesn't, what people like, what they want. It's a good gateway for gamers or app users to talk to the actual developers and give them honest feedback and help them learn quicker.
And maybe learn why some things are just harder to do.
Yeah.
Maybe curb our own expectations because it's easy just to scream at games, for Ubisoft or Rockstar and be like, well, yeah, you could just easily do this. You guys have hundreds of millions of dollars. But then, when you see a solo dev being like, I could do that, but I can't afford to do that and eat and give my baby some milk money,
Yeah. But yeah, you can join us actually in VR and be part of the conversation and just have a good time with us. So that was last night. We're going to talk to Andre here about a Rogue Escape. And then I don't know what you call it, if it's like SATA testing, Adventure Labs, Dr. Crumbs, they retooled it and they're back in testing before release. So running through that. So it's been a crazy week. So like I said, time is just not a thing to me right now.
Yeah. You exist outside of it.
But for this episode, and the reason you're here, we're talking to Andre. I'm not going to pronounce his name. I do it shortly after this, and I don't want to kill it again. But he's from Spare Parts Oasis dev team, kind of a one-man show anyway. But we're talking about his game Rogue Escape on Oculus Quest and Rift with cross-buy, as well as Steam. It came out on June 10th. It's $19.99. It's an escape room escape. It's room scale. You're in this giant mech, and it's amazing. And there's no instructions. You have to figure out what each button and lever and everything else included does. And I really enjoyed my time in there. I can't wait to get back in there. It's pretty unique. I definitely recommend checking it out.
I don't have a big enough spot right now ready for it. So how big does my room have to be for the room scale? Am I going to get bonked by my angled ceiling?
Well, thankfully it's on Quest, and you could go down in your living room, and you only really need maybe, I would guess maybe like 6x6. That
I can
could be or could not be wrong. You don't have to move around a lot. You just have to mainly reach for things and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you need to be rolling around or taking cover. Or it's just mostly for atmosphere. But yeah, it's really neat.
That's cool. Can try it out. Without sidetracking too much in the intro, how are you so bad at pronouncing names? It's like a running theme with you.
It's like I told Andre, I'm just, a simple American person that just does not.
But one of our first recordings when we had regular guy, Zed Poitier, come in and you're like, I'm gonna screw this up. I'm like, it's Poitier, just like Sydney Poitier.
I think it actually goes back to me not reading books. And
Yes.
I'm not, when I say that, people don't think I'm like an imbecile, because the act of physically reading books puts me to sleep, and I hate it because I love reading books. So I'm very much an audiobook person. But growing up, audiobooks weren't a thing, and I'd read a couple. Like, I tried to read The Hobbit many times. I've got through it a few times when I was younger, but it was like torture. Like, I could be sitting outside on a sunny day with a nice breeze on a park bench, and I would pass right out after a couple pages,
Some
and
people
then
do that, yeah.
I have to
Movies
reread
probably
half the chapter to like. So I'm gonna say that's why, maybe, but
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
but anyway,
I was
back to this. No,
yeah.
no, I don't care. I can make fun of myself. Um, yeah, check out the game. We have a really good chat. He's seems like a really good dude. He's fun to talk to.
Yeah,
Very
that's good.
interesting, very intelligent. Some of the things they did with the game, and working with social behavior and reacting to the game. It's so interesting to me. So yeah, give it a listen. Check it out. Check the game out. Feedback's
Since it
great.
since it doesn't, I should have brought this up in the podcast. So since it doesn't teach you what to do really in the game, you figure out. I wonder if like the game has like a camera, like recording, the whole thing and sending it back to the devs so they could laugh, because I'm sure some people are just raging out. If they're not patient enough to like say, oh, that's what this button does. They just flip a table and log off.
Yeah. I'm sure you could get that from Facebook, but the devs don't. I'm just kidding. Anyway, give it a listen. Let us know what you think. Let him know what you think of his game. Have fun. That's the main thing. Joining us this episode is Andre, and I'm going to swing and miss at your last name. You can correct me. Interguglielmi.
Perfect.
Your studio name, is it Spare Parts Oasis? Do I have that right? Okay. I just want to make sure of that. So,
well, one-man band anyway.
Yeah. My favorite kind.
Yeah, nice.
So we're here to chat about your game Rogue Escape that's out on Oculus Quest, Rift, and Steam.
Yeah.
Came out in June, and how's that going for you?
Awesome. Super, super happy. It was published by Armor Games Studios, and we are all super thrilled. It was developed with a bunch of friends, Silpha Labs, which is a studio also from Italy, where I'm from. It's old friends that I used to work with a long while ago when I started in this industry, and it was fun to. Yeah, it was by coincidence that we found each other back in the VR space. All of us. It's three of them, and just me on my own, usually working as a solo dev. And we were all invested into VR projects one way or another. So when we got back in touch, it was perfect timing. And Armor Games kind of wrapped us all together for this gig. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. It's got to be neat to make friends and have friends, and then kind of reconnect in the same field that you guys all, I'm assuming, love. So.
Yeah, it's quite a long trip. I mean, we used to work together back in the 2000 kind of thing. I was barely 19, and we were doing Game Boy Color games.
Oh wow! Awesome.
So imagine that. Years and years go by, and then we are on a mobile VR thing on our face. I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, and that I was gonna get to that, but that kind of helps make sense, because you released a Rogue Escape under the title Nauticrawl for PC in 2019, right?
Yeah.
And then you brought it to VR, which I love. We'll get to that. But you're also this month actually, you're porting it to mobile. Is that right?
Yeah, it's coming out. It's coming out in a few days, actually. I'm a bad developer. I can't remember if it's next Friday. It's all a blur right now. Yeah. But it's coming out very, very soon. And so yeah, the project is pretty much it started as a crazy PC game where just from desktop I tried to make it as immersive as I could, and then we kept everybody kept saying this game would be awesome in VR. It would be amazing to actually be in that thing for real, and we all knew that it was gonna be cool if it ever happened, but we didn't know whether it was gonna happen. And then at some point, Armor Games made this possible, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was crazy fun to work on this thing because I spent close to 2 years, if not more, working on this as a PC game, and so on the PC version of this game, it's not a port. So the VR game is not a port per se. It's completely redone from scratch. So I spent 2 years working on the PC version of this thing, imagining this cockpit. For those that aren't familiar with the game, you are stuck inside this massive mecha, this big house-sized machine. And the premise is that you are stealing it to get away from some bad guys. And it's all a big mystery. You don't know what's going on. You don't know how to control this machine. So basically, I've been imagining the machine myself, while I was doing it, because on desktop, you don't really see all of it. It's all smoke and mirrors, right? Yeah. And then at some point, we started with the proof of concept, so we had to pretty much put the models there. There wasn't even textures, but I clearly remember working on the VR project when one day I get the models from the Silver Labs guys that were doing the 3D side of things. I was just programming. So all the art and all the VR interaction is actually from them, and I was just working on the gameplay side of things. And I remember this clearly. One day I just put on the headset, and here it is. I'm inside that thing for real. After working on it for such a long time, imagining how it was, I was actually there. And the same reaction was from the rest of the Armor Games team. Everybody was like, "Whoa, this is weird! Like we are really in there." And I guess that's VR for us.
Yeah. How close is the final product to what was kind of in your head as just kind of what you thought it might be?
It's so given that I started as a solo dev, and this time it was 4 of us plus a publisher plus Oculus also checking on us and all of this. So it was quite a lot of people this time, and it's definitely different. It's not my nautical cockpit anymore, but it's a shared vision. And yeah, it's 100% as I hoped it would be. And it's not, I mean, that's the magic of this process. It's not how I imagined it would be. That's how I blueprinted. It really works like building a real thing, right? So I blueprinted the thing and I gave it to the modeler, and I was like, that's pretty much what it looks like on paper, on a schematic. And then he started putting metal and rivets and, soldering cables and stuff. So it's really like building an actual thing. And this time is actually on 1/1 scale. So I guess it's really as close as it gets to building the thing.
Yeah.
And even language and communication wise, it gets really funny because you start talking and moving and touching pieces of this machine, and you start talking about it as if it's real. We used to refer it as the land cockpit and the sky cockpit. It will sound nonsensical to people that haven't played the game, but yeah, it was fun.
For anyone listening, the game, it's room scale, and you do feel like the atmosphere is great. Like you really feel like you're in this machine. You can walk around in it. And also, we'll have to talk about there's almost zero instruction on how to work this machine. You have to figure out just by pressing and pulling, and it's pretty incredible. I played it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I got through a couple gates. Was figuring things out.
Yeah.
But how do you like your initial design for PC? Like, how did you come up with the concept and just kind of like figure out how to make things work? You almost seem like you'd reverse engineer it to get it to where the player comes in.
Yeah, the concept was easy. I just wanted to mesh a whole bunch of games that I grew up with, that I loved, from X-Wing, the simulator. I played the heck out of that game when I was a kid. And roguelikes, like old text-based roguelikes. Now, when I start describing this game and I put all of this one next to the other, that's when people that haven't played the game start going like, what? So yeah, the idea was like, I want to make this machine, this cockpit, and I want to make it so that you are piloting through a radar what is basically an old school roguelike. So literally like text-based from the top. And I tried as best as I could to mesh these things together. A few people saw it. Armor Games decided to invest in this crazy thing. And after that, so that's the initial vision. And after that, it was all iterations. So when you say reverse engineer, is actually very, very correct, because it wasn't what we are playing today. It was a whole mess of experimental controls. Some worked, some we had to scrap. And so we kept iterating until, I can't say until it made perfect sense, because it's one of those games that just clicks and works for some people. Some other just have fun in the process learning it. Some others might struggle, and some others just hate it because they just find themselves lost. They want a bloody tutorial for the thing, and by the time they realize there's none, they go completely nuts. But fortunately, we've encountered quite a few other people that enjoy this kind of experience. So, you were saying?
I love it. Like, I love not knowing what's going on, or like having zero instruction and just having to figure it out. It definitely gets frustrating, but I think that's part of it that makes it enjoyable, because then you figure it out, and then you really feel like you're intelligent when you figure something like that out.
and this game makes you really feel really smart. That was the whole point. Giving you those moments of like almost like when you see in a movie the hero jumping into an helicopter, and magically he's learning it in 5 minutes, taking off from the baddies and flying to salvation. I wanted exactly that kind of feeling, but I knew I couldn't have recreated it in a matter of minutes. So the next thing I had to do was make this fun, or at least appealing to those kind of people that, like you, like me, that enjoy being lost in a situation like that. So that's where the roguelike element comes in a lot. You figure things out and you die, and it's totally okay, because the story makes it so that it's a bunch of you. It's not just you. It's a bunch of workers, slaves. The story kind of pieces the whole mystery together towards the end. But it's a bunch of different people trying to solve the same mystery, dying, and trying to advance for the collective. This sort of escape plan, and that's how I try to make sense of this whole experience. You die, but it's okay.
I didn't even know that, and that makes it even like cooler now. Apparently I did pretty well because I haven't died yet.
So in VR, we had to restructure completely this die and repeat roguelike element, because on PC you restart from the very any roguelike, and as you progress, you unlock elements that help you jump forward in leaps that make sort of the progression very tangible. In VR, we couldn't afford to restart from scratch. Even if we gave you power-ups and ways to leap forward, restarting something in VR, dying in VR feels very, very frustrating. It's not like on PC where some people, I don't smoke, but some people might be just, smoking a cigarette, enjoying their time off, and just die, repeat, okay, click, check Facebook meanwhile, then go back to the game. In VR, you are really in there. You are committing to that spare time that you have. You're pouring it into that game. So wasting any second becomes really frustrating. So this time around, when you enter this place, there's going to be way more helpers. There's a tablet that somebody put there for you, and it's going to start giving you hints. You can disregard it or you can check it. Some people didn't even figure it out. Some people didn't notice it. All sort of things can go wrong. But it's kind of a trade-off. Like, either you go full into a game like this, or if I put just a single pop-up that tries and hold your hand, I break the immersion. Or at least that's my vision of this project. So nothing will ever break the immersion. No
That's
tutorials, amazing. No hand holding, just information scattered around, and me just trying the best that I can to grab players at the very last second before they completely lose hope, to give them hints through the monitors, through the controls, through lights and beeps. That's all I have at disposal in that thing. So I use every possible trick, but it's not easy. And some people will inevitably just get frustrated and send me to hell with this thing.
I think the only thing you could add, and this is not, I'm not serious, but having a wrench laying on the floor that you can just bang on crap when you're frustrated.
Yeah. That's a good idea, actually, or a punji ball or something. Yeah, it's
when I first learned of this game, I was blown away because not to bring up another game, but one of my first VR experiences was I Expect You to Die.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a level in there where you're in a sub underwater and it's kind of halfway through the game, so you're kind of comfortable with it, but like if you don't figure these things out, you're gonna drown. And I love that. I love underwater stuff anyway, but like that level, I was like, I could play a whole game like that. And then here comes Rogue Escape. I'm like, that's kind of what that is. I'm like, awesome. Only it's way more challenging.
Yeah, especially initially, that was the other problem with this game. And again, it's a two-side kind of situation. It's a problem, but it's also the fun part of this game. So, and it's when you initially start the game, that's probably the most difficult moment. So usually a game starts easy and ramps up. But if you really want to immerse someone into that situation, into stealing a machine you don't know, and you feel like desperate to do so, then there's not really much you can do. It has to start with you completely blind, and it has to be the most dramatic and frustrating moment. Then again, for those people that don't know the game, it gets smoother, but the game it's not like there's no game anymore. It just changes. It transmutates from escape room, figuring your controls, to actually pilot. You really learn to pilot the thing, and once you're piloting it, the game doesn't end. That's when you start taking it around, and that's when you see the big radar a top-down map, and it becomes more of a dungeon crawler. That's when that side of the experience opens up. And then after a while, just because the game cannot simply switch from genre A to genre B, the game again puts you inside another cockpit, and again you have to learn new controls and so on and so forth.
Yeah, like you said, the machine is like a building, almost a multi-story building. I didn't know that either, so I was getting. It seemed like I'm like, because again, I'm going in blind, and I love it. I don't know how long the game is. I don't know what to expect. It started to feel like, okay, I think I've pushed every button in here. How is this going to work? And all of a sudden, I go up to the next level, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, one of the expedients that we used, that we adopted to avoid people thinking, okay, that's it. I was having fun now because I like, for example, The Room or escape games in general. So the fun for me is over because now it's a top-down dungeon crawler. I mean, yeah, okay, but maybe this is not really. I want more of buttons and stuff. So the solution there was to have more panels, more buttons that you can fiddle with, but they don't work yet. So on your right, for example, there is a button that you can push, and it opens up barely a panel, but then the panel retracts again. So it kind of hints at the fact that there's more. And so the idea is, well, the hope at least is that people will chew through the dungeon crawling side of things, knowing that they are about to experience again more escape room kind of mechanics. And hopefully soon enough you change floor entirely, and another thing completely comes in, and you have to relearn a new cockpit. That's pretty much the flow of the game, and it's a very unusual flow. So some people are completely disoriented by it. Some people are taken by surprise and love it, and some people don't even give us a chance and just quit it before. I mean, that's to be expected.
That's really intelligent design, though, because I hit that button, I don't know how many hundreds of times. And then when like I said, when the floor goes up and I went up, I'm like, hey, I wasn't done down there yet. I'm like, oh, maybe I go back.
Yeah, that's the idea. You have to feel like you're not done experimenting with all the devices.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it was really a lot of fun to make this game. Of course, the fun part, as with anything game development, is usually the beginning, and then development is a lot of work, but then you get to testing, and that's when things get really not bad, but interesting, borderline frustrating. So we had a bit less with this iteration, with the VR iteration of the game, because we knew what we were dealing with. On PC, I can tell you a few fun stories. Initially, the game, for example, it wasn't as I would say slow, but it's not really about being slow. It's you can take your time. Nothing is putting pressure on you. The game eventually also kind of tries and explain to you that it's pretty much turn-based. It's a world that doesn't move until you move. If you don't make any sound, nobody notices you. Initially, it wasn't like that. So my request for the player was that as soon as they start moving, a few turrets will start noticing you, and you're under fire. You're under fire, but you're still learning the machine. So everything is blinking, there's gouges piping out smoke, and the enemy is kicking your butt, and you're still trying to understand what that red light is, and it's banging on your ears. And so we come out of the first testing with, I don't remember how many people tested it, quite a lot. And like two dudes managed to get through, and they were like, "This is awesome," and we were like, "No, it's not. Like, it's only you and another guy that managed, and this is not great." Yeah, they were all dying like flies. So at that point, I went back to the drawing board, and I thought, wait a second, my original inspiration for this part of the game, so when you start moving, is dungeon crawlers. So why is everything real time? It doesn't make any sense. Or at least I thought it did make some sense, but actually I do have a good excuse to make it so that people can take their time. So I start making this world where everything reacts to your motion rather than being active immediately. And it made sense, and it made it way more creepy because yeah, sometimes you're just standing still thinking about what you want to do next, and you hear the monsters outside going like "Rawr," and you're like, oh shoot.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind of, I don't want to say gave it away, but I kind of picked up on that. Like, I'm like, not that it's like complete like actual turn based, but I'm like, if I'm not moving or making sounds, I seem to be okay. And then the eeriness really did kick in because I'm like, do I want to hit that button that I don't know what it does yet?
Yeah, that's the atmosphere in there. It's kind of tense, and you can hear voices and stuff outside, so it's fun, creepy fun.
Wookie, as a gamer, have you played games without instructions that have been like difficult, and do you enjoy that, or do you not want to put time into it? Just kind of.
It depends on the feel for the game. If you jump in and it feels like somebody's just thrown something together, and you don't know what's going on, it's hard to give it a chance. But then like that Township Tale, the character creator in that one, like they don't tell you anything. There's these knobs and switches, and it was fun to figure out. So I kind of like to experience stuff and not be told. I like to figure it out, but I have to have a good vehicle to figure it out. And it sounds like this game's got that. So I hope everyone gives it a chance.
Yeah, I think you guys have a really good pacing. If someone's really trying to figure it out, I think, at least for me, like it was just enough. Like, okay, I've been working on whatever for 5-10 minutes now. I want to get to the next step, and then it's like click. Oh, that makes sense. So I think you have a good pacing.
Yeah, I'm using a lot of tricks, and again, it was about iteration, studying how people are playing the game. For example, there is a counter as you enter the cockpit for the first time, and you start touching all the controls, which is what people usually do. A counter kicks in. It's kind of funny to reveal I hope I'm not spoiling too much for people, but as you touch the controls, if you touch them a few too many times, a tablet will blink, and you pick up the tablet and you discover that somebody left some breadcrumbs notes for you to follow, and that should hopefully bring your hopes back up, because we have two scenarios. Some people start touching the controls and they immediately click with them, and in no time they turned on the machine. When that happens, they can still get stuck along the game. So we have a few other sort of hidden mechanisms that try and grab the player at the last second, because it's all a play where I try and have you have fun, and then try and grab your hand at the very last second, so that I'm not ruining your fun as soon as I understand that you're getting pissed off at the game.
Nice.
Understanding that is very hard, because we all tend to get upset about something in a different way at different moments. So literally boils down to having a lot of people playing the game and study who gets pissed off when. And Yeah, you cannot possibly cover
breaking point.
Yeah, you cannot possibly cover 100% of
No.
human reactions. So some people will inevitably just get upset, and the game will fail at holding their hands and grabbing them. But hopefully, we grab enough people by the last second. And again, and then there's some geniuses that just figure it out in no time. Usually, they are almost the party poopers here because they sort of ruin the fun, right? Like the game doesn't have any chance of opposing a challenge. And those are usually, whenever I get a negative review because the game felt too easy to them, those are the ones that hurt the most, because these people don't have, of course they can't possibly have any idea of how much I have to sort of tune the game down so that a lot of people can enjoy it rather than just a minority of die-hard. I know sci-fi controls kind of fans can enjoy it. So I have to sort of trace a average line for as many people as I can. But was I able to have an army of developers with me? Those folks that found it too easy probably would have got a hard mode, but it was just too much work. We couldn't fit it in.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if that was an option or not, but it always surprises me, and I don't, maybe you as a developer, it'd be interesting to hear your take. Did you ever plan on being like studying human behavior and all that stuff when you're like, hey, I want to make games? Like,
no, not at all. I didn't plan for anything that happened around this game. My producer didn't either. Anybody at Armor didn't either. Like, this game took all of us by surprise in many ways. Because it's experimental. There's nothing like it or quite like it. If you split it in all its parts, you can surely find plenty of games that are similar. But when you bring it all back together, it's hard to follow what other people have done because there's really not much like it out there. So it was all about looking at other people breaking this thing. And the other complex thing with this is you run out of fresh meat at some point, right? You run out of friends. You run out of people that have tried. My girlfriend hates it. So so what happens now? You can only follow your guts, and most likely your guts will fail with certain other kind of players. So what you do is just you go out there and you test and iterate and hope for good testers that can leave meaningful comments. Because usually the first thing that comes out is a wall of frustration. So a lot of I quit it, rage quit. And then a few of those just leave you some still negative comments. And so initially your instinct to reject it. But if you take it slowly, you allow yourself to suck it in, then you start actually finding good hints between those comments at how to adjust the game.
Yeah. If we could just get those types of reviews, to tell you what, a little more specifically to help you out more, it would be awesome.
Yeah. You want to get like, this is pre-actual Psychonauts 2 just came out. Like you should have that kind of superpower. Just get into the player's head and figure things out for your game from there. But unfortunately, we can't. We have to, and when we can't ask for players to really be a game designer, of course. So they tell you things their own way. It's all a it's a fascinating part of the job that I didn't think I was gonna have to deal with.
Yeah, and the game, so on the Oculus platform, I believe you support cross-buy, I believe, correct?
It on the Oculus platform, if you're going for the Quest,
I'm just always curious, did you start with the PC build in mind first and then went to Quest, or do you do it
No,
opposite and go with Quest and then?
we because as a development kind of a process, it's easier to first check that you can be on the lower specs device. We tend to, at least that's what we did. We sticked with the Oculus with the Quest throughout development. And then for the PC build, we went back to the original high-res assets and tried as best as we could to put to good use the PC that usually people have for VR. Although, of course, that's again, just like gameplay, a compromised job. So I know some people asked us to have just more effects, just more of everything, more polygons, just because their machines are powerful. And I understand how, especially back in the days, when we all started putting rigs together for VR, we were all having like massive computers to handle this stuff. But unfortunately, the truth is, business wise, it's more safe to make these kind of games so that they can run on as many computers as possible. And with the Quest being the mix now, we are seeing a lot of games that kind of tune it down a bit. And some people complained about that. It's fair. I understand we're not utilizing the computer to the fullest. But at the same time, it's kind of amazing that these games can run on a mobile chip on your head, untethered. So
it's for just between the first Quest and the second Quest, and not just the hardware, but some of game design and everything. Some of the games that have been coming out, like, they just look incredible when you think about this is playing on a phone.
Yeah, exactly. It's a phone rendering twice.
Yeah,
it has to render on two screens. It's a lot of work for that poor thing.
Even games that, like Red Matter, for example, came out on PC well before Quest was even a thing, and it looks great, plays great. It is damn close to the same game on the Quest, and it's just like, how the hell?
It's a lot of work. That's how. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work in breaking down the assets, making sure that only what needs to move is gonna move on screen. In our case, again, these guys that have been working with me, Sylphy Labs, they were responsible for the shaders, and they tried as best as they could to squeeze everything out of the Quest. So all the lighting, all the shadows, it's all handled with pre-baked tricks that they have to sort of improvise. It's not really something that we can get out of the shelf. Not Unity or Unreal, all these engines still don't give us really. Of course, they're an amazing base to develop on, but they're not quite there in terms of handling realistic assets on a mobile chip. Because the other thing is, usually when you use these engines on a phone, the resolution is much smaller too. So everything just works in your favor. VR is really tricky from this point of view because everything is scaled up real life. So these assets are big and you can get as close as you want. Everything is a bit headache. And that's really how most of the initial part of the project went by, with us sitting together, figuring out, okay, this is the PC version, and how do we completely rework it so that it makes sense in VR. I was, of course, mostly thinking about the game design side of things, but on the graphical side of things, it was one headache after the other, making sure that it can fit in there, making sure that it makes sense and it still looks pretty, which is another challenge with VR. I don't know how you're going to look at this thing, whether you're going to be up close or far back. Making something pretty is way more complicated than on PC, where I know where the camera is. You are the camera in a VR game. So I don't know how you're going to look at this thing. It's got to look pretty from any angle. It's very hard.
I just like to bring up the cross-buy because I personally I appreciate it because the way VR is right now, there's PC VR and then there's the mobile aspect. And obviously the Quest 2 and the Quest before it selling really well, really pushing VR, but if I have a choice, I love PC VR. I like the just everything's easier for me. And games look better, they play better. But I also love the Quest for what it is and having the mobility. So like having a game that just goes between both, I love because whether I want to play outside or take it to a friend's house, show it off, and help sell VR to other people is a big thing too.
Yeah,
So,
I hope people will keep appreciating other developers trying their best, especially in the indie sphere. It's not like
yeah,
we have, of course, more limited resources than LucasArts doing Vader Immortal. So yeah, it is an act of passion trying to support as many devices as we can so that people can enjoy our game, regardless of whether they want to buy into a Oculus with all that he brings, with all the Facebook intricacies. So some people just decide to not want to deal with that, and I fully respect that. And as a developer, it costs a lot to try and bring in all these other people. And right now, we're in a situation where not only costs time and resources to support PC VR, we as developers are actually having quite a good time on the Quest in terms of infrastructure. Everything is so easy for us on the Quest. And it's so focused. The store is there, it's curated. So it makes a lot of sense for us to be on the Quest. And it's fantastic when people, rather than saying, it could have looked a bit better on PC, they appreciate that we are trying our best to be on both platforms, because the future, of course, is a risk in those kind of cases, because small developers might as well just go like, sorry, I'll just be on the Quest. And all of a sudden you're left just with games on the Quest. And fortunately, we're not quite there yet, and I'm sure things will keep progressing on the PC VR side of things too. So it's not likely to become a monopoly, but the Quest works really well. Like, bottom line, the Quest works incredibly well, even for us developers. It's a great machine. It's a great piece of kit. So let's hope that we can keep moving this technology forward in a way that is really truly democratic, just like with gaming in general. Let's hope it doesn't become even more niche than it needs to be.
Yeah, and just for Rogue Escape, I fired it up on the Quest 2 first. I haven't played the PC version yet, but it looks great. Like, I totally immersed, totally blown away. So
thank you.
Were you gonna say something? Okay, yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
That's fine. I was just gonna go back to like having the Quest and the other versions like on Steam and stuff, and having the cross-buy, because the game like Warplanes, the World War I airplane fighting game, like PJ linked like, hey, you can make your own levels, but you got to have the Steam version to do that. But the Steam version, you can upload it to the game's, I guess, servers, and everyone, and on the Quest, I keep seeing custom levels. It's like, I would love to do that, but does everybody have the ability to keep purchasing the games twice if you do that? Because I want to go make a level, but do I buy the Steam copy as well? There's the itch.io, and it's like, cross-buy would be so great, but I understand that's probably hard to make standard.
Yeah, it's a miracle that at least Oculus owns both a PC platform and a mobile platform. Seeing Steam cross-buy would be fantastic, but when it comes to these kind of colossuses just dealing with money, I lose track. I have no idea whether it would make any sense for them, to be honest. It would be great for sure, especially for those kind of scenarios like crafting games and content creation kind of games. You could totally play the game on the Quest because you want to play in your living room and it's easier, and then crafting, then you go back to your studio when you have your other headset connected to the PC. Keyboard
and mouse, more inputs.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's such a young technology. It's so young. That's the other thing I realized working with it. I realized two things, both leading to the same conclusion, which is what I just said. It's so young. It got to an amazing place, but it's still like a green field of possibilities. These two things are, first, green field again. Like the moment I started thinking about games on this thing, everything came to mind. Literally everything. I have so many ideas that I would like to eventually do on VR. I hope I will eventually get to them. I'm taking a small pause for now because it's been quite draining to be in that thing 24/7 for a year.
Yeah.
But I would love to get back on it, and I have a lot of ideas. And so, yeah, full of possibilities for developers. And the other thing is, it's so young, and it will change so much. Even though it will basically stay true to the original idea, which is immerse you somewhere else, right? But I believe by the time these things keep shrinking down and they become glasses, it's going to change completely how we use them. And I'm not the kind of person that will love necessarily to go around with connected glasses. Actually, I would hate that. But coming back home and using this technology more in fun ways without excluding the rest of my family, I think that's going to be the turning point. I come back home and we are watching TV together, and it's not a clumsy sci-fi thing on my face that scares my daughter, but it's her glasses. And we use it to watch TV like we are at the movies, which also brings back good memories of when, I don't know if you guys remember the 3D movies, when you turn to the friends next to you and you laugh because they're wearing those blue and red glasses. Only these are going to be likely in a few years' time just plain normal glasses. So no laughing. But
like the
glasses.
option to tint them any color we want.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm sure by the time they do something like that, somebody's gonna come up with the red and blue lenses just for the fun of it. But yeah, that's gonna be a big turning point. I know everybody is aiming there. Facebook, I believe, said they are, of course, racing for it. Apple, I think, said something like that too. Although anything related to Apple is rumors at this point, but that's the race in place right now, and shouldn't be too long. But yeah, when we think about the creative potential today and the fact that it's just gonna keep growing, it's such an amazing space for developers.
Yeah. So you mentioned taking a break. Are you just talking from developing in general or VR specifically? I was just curious if you had any like plans for updates or DLC for Rogue Escape, or if you're kind of at a good point where you're like, moving on to the next thing when you start up again.
So right now, the only new plan for this title is going back. It's going back to the initial, to the origins, and we moved the PC version to mobile, and it's launching this month. And there's no other plans for now, although my brain keeps spinning around this concept, this idea, and many other ideas. I keep seeing myself for now like in a giant robot fighting big kaijus and stuff like that.
Oh my God.
And those are the kind of things that once you start spinning on those, it's very hard to put it down. But I want to take a break, not from development. I hope it's a big privilege for how things are shaping up in our industry. It's a big privilege to keep making games, and I hope I'm going to be still privileged for another while. But I will take a pause from VR while explore other projects on desktop first, and then meanwhile I'll keep fiddling with my giant robot ideas, and hopefully I'll be able to do something else. I would like to go back to it. we'll see in which form, and we'll see what the heck will be out there by the time I do that, because this stuff keeps evolving so fast. Yeah. So we'll see what will be there.
Yeah, it's funny that, I'm sure most devs are the same, just so many ideas and stuff. And Wookiee kind of is into development just a little bit, if not hobbyist. I don't know what you'd want to say, Wookiee, but we were just last night after we had a roundtable discussion in VR, we fired off like 20 ideas for games. And one thing is, I just want to bring it up because it's kind of on topic. I just want a game that's a co-op, 2-player or whatever, where you're like one guy's driving the machine, one guy's like the gunner and just, blowing crap up, and two different, where the driver's like doing his own thing. It's like a racing game where you're like punching stuff, breaking stuff. And
I had exactly the same idea. So I'm gonna reinforce on that idea so that somebody can hopefully pick it up and give us this game, because I won't be able to do it in the immediate future at least. But co-op game, but you are the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
Everybody's piloting a different limb of this giant robot, and it's total mayhem, total chaos, because you are trying.
God, I'd be one of the legs, and you guys would never get to the goal.
Yeah, you are the one responsible for moving half of the thing forward, but then the other friend is responsible for punching in the face the big kaiju. That would be the final party game.
Yes.
But party games are another big kind of tough project to take in because of multiplayer, server interaction, and then you have to sell to people that have friends, and that's not always the case. I'm the only one in my circle of friends with a VR headset, for example.
Yep.
But there's ways around it, on room-based server distribution and stuff like that. But that's one game I would love to play. I also thought about it. But yeah, somebody has to do it.
Yeah. And that'd be a great, like you said, you hanging out with your family and stuff. That would be, if you had 4 or 5 headsets and your whole family could play that one game. Like growing up in my childhood, like our family would have got along a lot better, I think, if we had that experience.
I don't know.
Or it might have went the other way. Who knows? But yeah,
he's kind of a bastard in some games, so
Well, you can't punch anybody in the face or you break the game. So that's one thing at least.
Break my hand on it.
like you were saying, with so much potential, yet like asynchronous games are like still a thing like I really enjoy and I'd like to see more of for people that can't do VR for whatever reason. And just like in the same room games like Resolution with Acron, where the VR player's a tree and everyone is playing on mobile and they're the squirrels. Like it's just such fun stuff that you can include everyone in if you have one headset, type of deal or whatever it is. It's just there's so many options, so many places to go yet.
Yeah, one of the key moment, I think, I like one of those epiphanies kind of moment that I had about VR as a medium was when I played Super Hot. Not Super Hot per se. The game is fantastic, but it wasn't about the shooting mechanic or anything like that. The moment of realization of the potential of this thing for me was when I was in the main room where you take the missions. I don't know if you guys played the game. So you are in this room where you take the missions. And there is just around you, there is a bit of a mess desk. And then there is on your left a desk with a trash can. Is that how you call it?
Yep.
Below the desk. And so what I did was like, what's inside the thing? So I went on my knees and I stick my head on top of the can to see what was inside. And at that point, and the room is so tiny, so you don't really need that much space. I realized like, whoa, I'm looking inside this thing under a desk for real.
I did the same damn thing.
Great. So imagine the possibilities inside that trash can. There could have been a whole freaking world. And in fact, this is another fun thing that kept coming out about a rogue escape. So when you turn on the back, of course, there's still assets. There's still 3D stuff, right?
Yeah.
On PC, there's nothing. There's black void. But in VR, there's the continuation of the cockpit. And the 3D artist, Paolo, he kept adding detail. There is a door, like a big, chunky, metallic, sort of submarine kind of looking door. And he kept adding details to that door. He really loved it. And then at some point, he added a red light on top of it, and then another trap door next to it. And I was like, dude, if you don't stop adding detail to it, people are gonna think that they can just open it, and they're gonna want to go to whatever that leads. And the artist was like, oh, I didn't think about that. And we all realized at that point that there could have been a game in there. So we started fantasizing about the game in the game. You know, you unlock that door at some point, and it goes completely somewhere else. Like, this is VR. There could have been really another game in there. That's what you can do. Now, whether it makes sense commercially, whether you're just stinking rich and you can do that and pull it off, I don't know. But VR allows for it. And so, again, as a creative media, it's just so cool.
Yeah, that was some of the potential I was expecting back when I first got VR, and there was the Oculus room, and you could put a console there and you'd plug the game in and launch the game and all kinds of cool things. But I always thought it'd be neat, like with your game, say I own Rogue Escape, maybe Rogue Escape 2 comes out down the road. I can choose to, you guys choose to like launch it in the same cockpit, and then you go through that door and then you're into the sequel without, you know, anything. Like, that would be so neat.
Yeah, you can do all of that. Unfortunately, in game development, all of that translates, of course, to business decisions. And that's where it gets really tricky, because you are hiding content, and you know, making a game is all about making it obvious that the content is there. So you're taking a risk just because it's cool, but it is cool. And I hope people are going to take those risks at some point.
Yeah.
It's just so neat when you find those things, though, like the Easter eggs and stuff. But like going to non-VR games, there's every update they put out with Grand Theft Auto, they either sneak in new audio lines or they've had them in there the whole time and they kind of drip out, because every time I'm driving down the road and I hear a different phone conversation, it's like, how many voice actors did they hire for this game? And you've been playing it since, I don't know, whatever, 2012 or 2013. And I'm still hearing new crap. And it's like, what?
Yeah,
so, like,
that's, yeah.
Yes.
Big studios have the budget for that kind of stuff, and it's great when they commit to keep supporting the. Unfortunately, the sad truth of things is, you know, this kind of stuff is usually only coming from big AAA studios, because, you know, you need a lot of money to pull it off. But with tools becoming easier and easier, fortunately, we should see more of that in the indie gaming sphere as well. Because at the end of the day, the problem is AAA studio might struggle to do something like a Rogue Escape because it's not quite mainstream. So for a studio like that, like for a big studio to do something more edgy would be cool. And then they would also have the budget to really make this like Disneyland of, you know, mechas. So fingers crossed for these big studios to embrace VR more and more, so we can enjoy some crazy stuff.
Yeah, like you mentioned, was super hot, and getting down on your knees and looking in that trash can. Like, that was another thing when I first got into VR. And you know, I love escape rooms, but real life escape rooms, it's a lot of locks and combinations, and it's like it's neat, but it's like I'd rather do something different with it. In VR, like to my mind, an escape room, like you would stick your head down in there and find like a note attached under the desk. Like you would really search out the space instead of just kind of like a lot of games, like something will be highlighted and it's like, oh come on, I want to figure it out. Like I don't.
Yeah, that's the thing with the medium itself. It's we are still approaching it as a classic video game. So most of the experiences on in VR are very linear.
Yeah, and VR allows you to do so much. Like when Wookie and I play shooters, like I am crawling on the floor, literally in real life, crawling around on the floor.
Yeah.
And I would like to do more of that. Or now games have kind of, and I don't fault anyone for anything. Like I love having, I'm all about all the options you can throw in into a game with like locomotion and all that. But then they just started, it seems like room scale has gone away a bit. And just searching out that whole play space kind of thing has gone away a little bit, which is kind of sad.
It cuts away some of your audience. With the Rogue Escape, we took a bit of a risk. Some people complained the room scale was a bit too big, although it kind of backfired because you don't really need that much space. You just need to enlarge the area so that when you are swinging your hands around, you don't see the barrier showing up.
Yeah.
But then the controls are just around you and you don't really. So by design, I wanted this to feel like you're piloting almost a boat. So you're not in a Formula One car where everything is tight. It's more like a boat. So if you want to, open up a gouge, you have to look on your left and maybe make half a step or just, reach for it. That's the kind of feeling that I wanted to give. But and overall, people really appreciated this. But yeah, some people told me like it's a bit too big for my apartment. So I tried to explain to them, look, just enlarge the area and don't worry about it. I mean, don't hold me accountant or any of that. But unless you have vases that you can smash around, hopefully you should be fine in terms of space. You're not gonna have to walk literally around the room.
Yeah. I'm always curious. Well, maybe you can answer this because I think I've played some games that have done this. Is there a way, or like with room scale, is there a way you can actually scale like the game space to the actual size of someone's boundaries?
Not as a user. While we are making the game, yes, although it's a lot of headaches, even if we do it, because everything needs to be placed very carefully. But technically we can do it easily. Not as a user, I don't believe there's any option on any of the headset that allow you to do that. Also because it would be incredibly cool, I think, but at the same time, you would put us developers in a lot of troubles because you could easily break the game.
Sure.
And we wouldn't have a way to know what happened. Like, hey, at some point my head was through the roof. This game sucks. And I'm like, what happened there? Like, why was this guy so tall? It's that's one of the downsides, or actually just the price to pay with VR. It's physical. It's literally there. So, for example, while we were designing Nautical, we were lucky enough that I'm average, I guess. I gotta do meters. Sorry, guys. So I'm 175, and there is another guy working with us. He was really, really tall, 190 plus, and if you're all from the States, these numbers won't make much sense. And then there was another guy that was shorter than me. So we really had it all sizes.
Nice.
I would have loved to make the game easier to enjoy sitting for accessibility, which is something I care for a lot. But again, unfortunately, it comes down to development time. But at least we were able to test the game at all heights. and you have no idea. Like one of the tall guys was like, "Guys, I cannot reach the steering wheel because he was too tall."
That'd be awesome if you could, like, with a tall person, like, tracking, like, if their head actually hit something on the ceiling, and you could add a sound effect like a ding.
Yeah, actually, the head is the only thing we can track, so it would make a lot of sense. We went for something smart instead, and we went for a adjustable platform.
Nice.
And the whole intro of the game, if you've noticed, if you've played it, is designed around this platform to make you understand that you can actually go up and down with one of the joysticks on your controller, so you can adjust your height in the game. Because I really hate tutorials, so we even on that I didn't want to put a screen that said, "Hey, you can use your thumbsticks." Instead, I created a whole section of the game to teach you that. And you can keep doing that through the whole game. You can keep adjusting your height. Some other developers go for a fixed height, which in perspective is probably an easier choice. I should have gone for that. There's not really much harm done in that. If you're 2 meters, you probably find yourself really being at average height. And if you're too short, finally, you're tall. But in general, I believe it has been proven that it doesn't give you uneasiness. So it's an easy choice for us to fix the camera at a certain height. I took the hard path, but there's options.
I bet you learned a couple things from it. So
you on your first VR game, you learned quite a few things, yeah, the hard way as you're making mistakes. Yeah, well, it's true to game in general. It's true to any work in general. But yeah, VR is really its own thing.
Yeah. Well, we could keep going. I'm really enjoying the chat, but with the technical issues, I also don't want to take over your whole day. Before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't get to talk about that you wanted to talk about, or anything you wanted to cover or share?
Don't know about the other guys if they want to ask anything, but yeah, I think I've pretty much touched on all the fun things that I could have thought of.
Well, okay, from all the chatting about it, are you thinking of trying it out, or do you like the sound of it? Or I like to put them on the spot.
Well, you guys were, I hate to get in the middle of the back and forth, and PJ's on a roll. It's fun for me to listen to, and I need to maybe chime in more sometimes. But the game itself, it sounds really intriguing. I do like being dropped in and not knowing what's going on. So I kind of am curious to see that at that point. So yeah, I'm going to. I've got a $30% off Oculus coupon. Maybe I'll pick this one up, or I'll buy it full price. I don't know.
Wookie, don't you leave me a bad review, all right? I'll ask for some. I'll ask for some coupons, actually, guys. If you can remind me next week. Oh no, pleasure. So yeah, do remind me. Wookie, I'm looking at you. No negative reviews if you find it too frustrating. Okay.
I will. It's weird for me with reviews because a lot of games, like if I can tell it's not something I'm into in 5 minutes, I will drop it, and PJ will hear about it, and PJ will be, just shut up, I don't care.
No, I'm more of like, just play it for a half hour. Come on.
Yeah, I'm also the kind of player that needs to be convinced, and then usually I'm pretty flexible. But I tend to be very picky initially. Like, no, this one I don't like the logo.
If there's heart and soul into it, I will give it the best chance. Like if I can tell, like this is someone's passion project, I will give it every minute of the day. If it's like a quick cash grab, not digging like a goat simulator thing, but like, let's just throw a game together and see if we can make money on it. If it smells like that at all, I'm going to be, 5-minute timers running.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's in indie, the indie space can bring us a lot of that passion, fortunately.
Yeah.
That's where things get really funky, and it's
Since-
great.
Yeah, sometimes the weirder the better. Sometimes I need a little more.
Yeah,
normal,
although
but-
there's exceptions. I mean, I really enjoyed all the Vader Immortal games. I think those were super sweet. And although I would have loved for them to take in more risks, like
Yeah.
give me way more spaceship scenes, like a whole game like that, please. But at least, you know,
The Star Wars universe thing is so underdone. I'm still mad about what was the MMO? The Old Republic MMO, which I really thought was really good. And like, what was that, 2009 or 2011? And I have 2 of the Lego ships from it because those ship designs in that game are so cool, and you get to go in the interior and it's like your house. But it's like I want to take off out of the spaceport and land myself. It's it's just loading screens. And
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I had the same when I was playing the new X-Wing game. What is it called? Star Wars Squadron in VR.
Yeah.
And I got pissed off because they wouldn't let me use the motion controllers, which really I hate them for that. And the second thing is, but I totally understand them for that because I went through this pain. They wouldn't let me touch any button. Like, I'm happy I made my game, which is exactly the opposite. But I'm also happy they didn't have to go through the pain that I went through, because as soon as you let people touch all the buttons, everything goes to hell. So good on them for not letting people do that. But imagine how cool it would be if you could really flip switches on an X-Wing.
Lock your S foils and unlock them, and
yeah, you would crash like 1 millisecond after you start the thing. But how fun would that be?
That's my thing exactly. Like any game where there's like first person controls or driving, I'm going to be the one trying to land a helicopter like authentically, and everyone else is just flying past in arcade mode or something.
Then you're gonna love a rogue escape.
Yeah,
you get
like
to do everything on your own.
I mentioned that Warplanes game earlier, and I've been dying to play more of that too, because it's you're in the cockpit of World War I plane, but it is like that. There's for the voice chat. There's little toggle switches for like turning your mic off, or team chat versus everybody in the room radio channel. And
anything that doesn't make you die, basically.
Yeah, but it's kind of like I'm so enthused. There's like a little like clipboard, like they would have had with their checklist, like telling you how to use that airplane or drop a bomb or whatever. I'm sitting there flipping through that stuff. I look up, like there's a building coming at my face. Like, shit. And then I pull up, and then I'm sitting there flipping the radio switches. I'm like, can you hear me now? And stuff like that. And I look up, and there's an airplane coming right at my face, and I explode. Like, shit. I'm not playing the game right. But that's fine. So
if you like exactly that kind of thing, then you're gonna have a blast.
I will pull the levers. I will open the lids.
Yeah, all about that.
I won't leave you a bad review.
Thank you, Wookie.
You told me not to leave a bad review, so here's my review, and then I'll be it. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I will know it was you.
Well, Andre, it's been awesome talking to you. If you ever feel the need to come back or spin up another project, we'd love to chat again. But
I really, really hope it's going to be for something new. I had a blast. It was super fun. I hope next time we can do it in VR again.
Yeah. If you need testers for when you get that co-op mech game going, I'm in.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a shout also, because I need friends with VR headsets, so you're going to have to be testing it with me.
That's fine. PJ doesn't get motion sick. I can get a little tweaked, so I will be you'll be your threshold for not getting sick. I'll be your threshold for people that can get tweaked.
Right. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for your time and putting up with the initial technical difficulties and sticking through it.
Oh, that's all right. You had me on my official first VR chat ever, so that was short, but it was a lot of fun, interesting.
We shot the t-shirt bazookas a couple times.
Nice.
I did, yeah, I did shoot the bazooka. That was weird. All right, guys. Thank you again.
Have a good weekend. Thanks for.
And you guys, bye.
Bye. Well, everyone, that was Andre. I'm not going to butcher his last name again. If you want to hear that, you can go back to the beginning of the episode. From Spare Parts Oasis, talking about his game Rogue Escape on Oculus Quest, Rift, and Steam with cross-buy for the Oculus platform, which is awesome. It's $19.99. If you don't get frustrated with things, it is. I enjoy it. It's got a lot of atmosphere. It's fun to figure things out. So I recommend it. But yeah, it's also, if you're listening to this and you're not into VR somehow, there's the PC version, Not a Crawl, and then it's also coming to mobile this month in a couple weeks. So check that out if you can't do VR.
Which you should try it if you can. Is there a big used market for like Oculus Quest 1s, or are they just find? Or
I think there still is, because the devs are still made to make sure their app or game works on both. They're not being sold at all. They're not available, but there is a used market for them. Like, I have one, and I would give it to anyone. Just give it to them if they would say, "Hey, I'll play something once a month." Or if all of my in real life friends live nowhere near me, so we've been talking about location based games coming out, like Pirate Trainer coming out this month with the, I don't have it in front of me, so I forget the terminology, but it's basically hide and seek shooting each other, and it builds the map around you in real life. And I want to play that really bad. Thankfully,
that sounds fantastic.
We talked about this. I was on, I guess, on the Let's Talk Oculus podcast, which will come out soon. We talked a little bit about it, but I was a day away from getting the beta key right before COVID hit. And then COVID became a thing. They're like, we don't want to encourage people to be near each other. So they didn't go ahead with it. But in the meantime, they have put a lot of work into it. There's now a co-op mode. There's an online mode. They added a lot of stuff, and I'm glad to see that, because I don't have someone in real life I could go outside and play that game with, which was the initial intention. So I'm super happy they did that. So
that's very cool.
I would give my second headset away just to check that stuff out. But thankfully, it'll be online too. So hopefully that works well.
Yeah. I'm missing more and more. Maybe it's just the weirdness of the times. I'm missing more and more like a couch co-op. VR does a pretty good job. And listeners can't see this. And if you don't listen to the roundtables and stuff, but like we did the dev roundtable that you've set up last night, and I was just having issues. I've had 2 weeks of just weird fun, so I feel bad, but I was having issues getting in, and when I got in, I must have had the volume down on the headset from just putting it on and off. You were talking, and the other guys were talking. You were saying something to me. I couldn't hear you. I leaned in, like I leaned closer, like that was going to help more. And it just, when those things happen, it's just like, it feels like you're closer to people. And it's, even some of the devs in the first roundtable we did was they're like, this is cool to have a chat like this. And, they don't get sleep or coffee or, personal connections because they're working all the time. That, like, it's so cool to just chat like this, and so it's even more like it's a blessing in itself, if that's the right word, to be able to have something like that when you're remote like this. We're a couple thousand miles away from each other. But then it makes me miss the couch gaming even more, because it's like, damn it, like, how do they couldn't have done much better without like Sword Art Online or whatever, Matrix sticking something in the back of your head.
Yeah,
but even still,
We really need to get that Emu VR going so we can do that. But
Yeah.
to your point last night, when you say you leaned in, like I noticed that. I'm like, and I kind of like saved that. And then when I went to bed, I was just thinking about that. I'm like, it was just a unique moment. And it's weird that it still happens in VR and it's still like, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's
because
not
we
something
haven't
that's going to
played.
wear off. Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't hung out or played anything in a couple weeks due to, you said you're going through fun stuff, and I've been doing a lot of like outside things because I want to get things done before we get locked down again, if that happens. But so we haven't hung out. So that was like, it actually felt even more real, even though we've done it many, many times. We do it every week in our booth,
Yeah.
but it was pretty amazing moment, and it's weird
Just
to
those
say
little,
that. But
those little sparks of like, you forget you're not really there. And I always go back to the thing when I thought the barrel was going to, save
yeah.
me in an Elven Assassin, but it's like that's still going to happen. Like playing that Warplanes game, and you're just so in awe of that. Even if the awe part of the game wears off, I'm still going to be doing stuff like, flipping those switches, and your brain, it does a good job.
Yeah, and to the same point, we were with the Dev Roundtable last night. For anyone who hasn't been in our booth or the Spatial Ape app, we have our own area and we do the podcast and stuff. And there's a bright blue sky, and I really need to. I've been writing stuff up, but I want them to put like a roof and make our booth darker because we always do stuff at night because we're the bad boys of the space. But but I think I went to bed last night. We did that recording, or we chatted for almost 2 hours, and I went to bed and I think I slept funny, which I normally like. I can sleep through anything, but I think it affected me because my body was like, it was just daytime.
Yeah,
because
totally.
I've been up since 3 a.m. today, which is I get up early normally, but I think that's what it was. So it's like, that's how crazy and atmospheric and surreal VR can be and affect you. Like, it's insane.
Me and my girlfriend been talking about a bunch of crazy stuff too, about consciousness and all that stuff. But it's like the brain is so weird because you can throw it into a dream or VR or reality, or sometimes when you feel a slight disconnect from reality, and it's like, am I like, you really here? Like sometimes if you're tired or you just haven't left the office for too long, or you're staring at your screens and stuff like that. But it's sort of like the brain does such a good job about just like adapting and whatever it's translating and doing. It's like VR. Like I didn't sleep well last night either. I think we were same thing happened. I wasn't quite in there as long as you were, but we ended at the same time. And I was like, I got up and I was just like, I did not get restful sleep. And I think that, and you said that makes perfect sense. Why do I feel a little groggy?
Yeah, because when I was kind of like in that moment where you're kind of waking up, I think all I could see was the blue sky with those fucking clouds.
Clouds,
like, God damn it.
And the rolling hills, it's like calling me home. Like, what am I seeing? So even if there was like a light switch that we could turn to like dim the sky, and have stars and cool stuff. I don't know.
But we have, there's all kinds of stuff planned. I just want to kind of let them know what's going on, because I've had other people mention like, wow, it's really bright in here. Like, yeah, it is.
just imagine having a dimmer on the wall, the whole fucking, environment.
Well, like, big
just
screen
like
does that.
Calm down. Yeah.
It's really neat. So yeah, just to demonstrate to, again, anyone listening, it may not be in VR and listening to a VR podcast, like, shout out and let me know on Twitter, like, I'm interested. But yeah.
You mean
anyway,
from the audience, or?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You brought up the 30% off coupon, and I keep hearing people say these things. I've only ever received one of those, and
I get them all the time.
So why am I not getting them, I wonder? And I've heard a couple other people like say, what is that? I've never gotten that. So that's interesting.
It's probably because I was like, fuck you, Facebook, and I haven't bought a game on the store without a serious discount or the freebie. I buy them on Steam if I can, and they're probably like trying to entice the sales. The whole thing with like Amazon back in the day, if you'd leave something in your cart for a week, you'd get like a coupon for it. they want that sale. So they're getting your money already. They want my money. And I'm kind of like, prove that it's for the good of humanity and for the furthering of VR for VR's sake and not for taking pictures of my living room and see how messy it is with my cup on the counter. Come on. But yeah, I get those like, it's probably my 5th or 6th one in recent memory.
Wow. I think I've gotten one ever.
If it wasn't account based, I'd be like shooting them out of those t-shirt guns. But here's a 30% off coupon on me.
Yeah, and I found a whole like Reddit thread on the same thing, so it must just be like a use case thing. Bastards.
Looks like, yeah, it's people using, AI.
But on the same hand, like, I own a lot of fucking games, so give me a break.
Right? That's the other, that's where I don't like, it's a little bit of abuse because they're like, this is going back to a friend of ours, PJ and I's in real life, for who's still listening to us, but and this is back, I remember watching Neon Genesis Evangelion in their apartment, and they spent so much money at Blockbuster renting movies and games, and they had so many late fees because they just kept them and played them instead of just, going to check them out, that they gave them like the free gold membership where there's no longer late fees because they were giving them like hundreds of dollars a month, I think, in late fees. And it was nice for their local Blockbuster to be like, you guys have done enough. Here's, no more late fees for you guys. And it's like, that's a token of appreciation because they for the amount of money they probably spent on late fees. And if Blockbuster was still around, and there wasn't that one, one left, they would probably, like, for that amount of money, they'd still be, renting movies if they just legitimately use that money to rent movies. There was so much going on. Why don't people like you who play like every game that comes out, why don't they give you like a thank you coupon?
Yeah.
People like me, they need to be like, you need to prove that you're going to be a good store user before we give you a freebie.
Yeah, I was just curious, and that makes sense. Yeah. Bastards.
Yeah. It's using AI and machine learning and behavioral tracking to coax a little more out of people. And nothing else comes of that.
So I'm just gonna like every day just like look at a game, put that code and try to apply it, say you can't use this, and then not buy anything. Maybe that'll give them
which code?
Because like the code, wasn't it like Explorer 30 or something like that? It's the
Oh
same
yeah, I
code.
think I've gotten those too. Is it? Yeah.
So I'm gonna just go to the store once a day, put it in, try and buy a game with it, say, oh, it's not gonna work, and then I just delete it out of my cart. Maybe they'll get the hint.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned for other people because I've heard a lot of people say that, and I was just curious. But... All right, everyone.
Yeah, we could go on and on for that one. Thanks for hanging in there, listeners.
Yeah. But yeah, give Rogue Escape a try. I dig it. Get Andre some feedback. Give him some good reviews. If you're, honest reviews are the best reviews, no matter what. But for this episode 85, I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And this was our VR verdict.